Hey everyone, Dr. Ryan here from Fundamental Health. Today I'm doing something very special. Today I have the first ever live interview with another healthcare professional. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Joe O'Toole. Dr. Joe O'Toole resides in Iowa and he specializes in chiropractic medicine and movement sciences, but also uses clinical oils in his practice to get people better. Dr. Joe is the founder of Livestream Clinic, a movement-based clinic system with 3 locations in the central Iowa area. He has also been instrumental in several other startups in the health and personal development industries. His personal mission statement is step up, change lives, and inspire others. Being an active member of his local church and regular lecturer both in the US and internationally are ways that he enjoys living out this message. Dr. Joe and his wife, Angie, reside in Grimes, Iowa with their 3 children, Lexi, Quinn, and Juliet. There they enjoy never-ending home improvement products, family walks, and conversations on how to change the world. So that was the brief bio that Dr. Joe gave me. But Joe, how about you fill in the gaps of my introduction and tell us more about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I Iowa and focus primarily on sports performance. And one of the things I actually just started my postdoctorate work in functional neurology, focusing primarily on traumatic brain injuries. I'm a high school football coach here in town, and I've been coaching for years. And so obviously everybody hears about concussions in football and all that stuff. So I've been doing a lot of work with that recently here, especially in the last couple of years, and now starting postdoctorate work. So that's one of the aspects. And then I've been using essential oils in my practice now. Oh boy, going on about 3 years now in the practice. My wife and I use it personally for a couple of years just to become familiar, do some research, make sure that that it's something that we can use from a health perspective and not just because it sounds good and catchy. So we use it for a while on our own, and then we transitioned into using it in the clinic. And then within the last year, we've been working with several docs from around the country, both within chiropractic and outside of chiropractic, to develop a clinical system so that it can be integrated in a clinical manner and not just person sharing. That's a big
Sure.
that we've been focusing on.
Yeah, and I think there's a definite need for that. So let's take a step back, Dr. Joe, and tell me, why essential oils? Why did you get started with the oils?
Yeah, so it started with just in a networking group with a gal, and from there, she was introducing. My mom was a nurse growing up, and so I was exposed to a lot of alternative natural healing methods, and essential oils was one of them, but I didn't know a lot about them at that point. And personally, I know my mom used them, but I didn't know anything about them myself as a doctor. And so that's where then I just started talking with her, with my wife, and seeing that there were a lot of aspects that we were missing out in our clinic on how we can help utilize plant-based medicine. So obviously, health starts with a healthy lifestyle of nutrition, exercise, stress management, those kind of things. But seeing that we have a huge toxic burden in our society, just gave our family a little bit of a different ability to address some of those toxic loads that we hadn't been able to find answers for. And so really one of the biggest impacts that the oils has had on our family, and that's then when we started introducing it into the clinic, was I walked into our bathroom one day, and our son was squirting our daughter in the face with toilet bowl cleaner. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, wait a second. But we'd already started using oils as our cleaning method. And so then I'm like, wait a second. I don't have to stop and call poison control. He's squirting her with lemon and melon. And that, obviously, that's not good in the eyes and those kind of things. But it wasn't traumatic, life altering for our daughter. Squirted in the face with toilet bowl cleaner. So that's where it started to really hit home for me, and almost a responsibility for me that I need to get this to my patients. And so then that's when we started working them into the clinic as a natural solution that, again, you have to be careful, and this, we'll kind of get into this a little bit, but it's generally non-toxic if you properly. compared to a lot of things that you can purchase off the store shelf. So that's why we got the essential oils.
Yeah, you can almost say
And
that about anything, right?
yeah, that's not where I thought my life would go. I'm a movement geek. I love studying human movement, and so I never thought I'd get into essential oils, but it's definitely been something that has brought a different ability to my practice than I realized.
Yeah, we'll have to touch on the movement aspect maybe another time, but
Yeah,
today we'll focus on the oils. So, taking another step back, so let's dive deep into it. Why don't you tell the audience something about the oils that they may not know about?
yeah. So again, this was something I didn't realize extensively at first, and a lot of people don't realize when you hear the word essential oil, you just think of this little bottle of something, and you never really understand that there's a lot of variety in essential oils, and really where that comes from is from the plants where they're sourced. And so my background, even going back a little bit further, before chiropractic school, I worked a lot with agricultural testing, and specifically with soil testing. And so that gave me a huge appreciation for the quality of the soil determines the quality of the plant. The quality of the plant determines the quality of the end product. And so essential oils are really just extractions from a plant. And so when you're looking at different essential oils, both from a general standpoint, also from an individual standpoint of this oil, there's a ton of variety of what makes up an essential oil. And so if you have poor soil quality, poor farming methods with the soil or with the plant, you're going to have poor outcomes with the essential oils. So that's a piece that I didn't really understand when I first heard about essential oils, but quality really does matter, and especially the quality of the sourcing and extraction of the oil. So, and
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I didn't know that really either. And for the audience, I use some essential oils in my practice too in personal use. And, I hear all the time quality is important, especially when we're coming to use these certain tools in health. But I didn't realize that, coming down to even the soil and the source where you're getting that plant was so important. But it makes a ton of sense.
yeah, well, and you can even think about it in a different sense. If you step outside of the essential oil world and you think of wines, everybody can tell if there's a wine that's grown in Iowa versus a wine that's grown in California versus a wine that's grown in France, right? And why is that? It's the environment around it, and it's the soil quality. I mean, in Iowa we grow corn. The soil is great for corn. In California, the soil is great for, especially in the Napa Valley region, it's great for producing great grapes, great wine, things like that. And so that's where, yeah, it's incredibly important.
Awesome. So let's get more into like practical use here. So I just wanted you to run through like one protocol. So like one oil or one blend that you use, and then how someone else can use it, so they can take something away from this and be like, oh, I learned about this oil. I learned how to use it, and for these reasons, and this is one of Dr. Joe's favorites.
Yeah. So my absolute favorite oil, at least at this point, again, it's such a broad topic that I'm constantly finding new oils and things like that. But it's been pretty standard since beginning. Frankincense is my favorite oil. And the reason for that is it has such a broad usage. Its chemical profile is really rich, and so it can have a huge impact. And then also, for me personally, the way I practice and a lot of my focus is on neurology. And frankincense has a tremendous impact on the brain, and especially in the area of the brain called the hippocampus, which is your memory center. And your short-term memory center has a huge impact really on your stress centers in your brain, your locus coeruleus and amygdala. And so that's where really affecting the brain through the use of frankincense it's so awesome. I could go on and on. I've done webinars for hours on frankincense, but what's really cool with frankincense, the way that the molecules are made, they will pass through something called the blood-brain barrier. And so a lot of chemicals, a lot of proteins, things like that in your bloodstream can't get into your brain because your brain is very, very sensitive. And so frankincense, because of the makeup of the molecule being really small, being fat-based, and being nonpolar, or not really having a positive or negative charge, it will pass through the blood-brain barrier and have that impact in the brain. And so that's something that's incredibly fascinating. And then the brand that we use in our clinic, uh, one thing that I found really effective with this as the way that they develop is, again, going back to the soil quality and the environment of the soil and the surrounding area where the plant comes from is doTERRA, which is the brand that we use, actually sources 4 different species of frankincense. And so it's not just the one species, but they source it from 4 different locations around the world. And then they actually combine it in a blend, really. And so a lot of times you think of frankincense as one specific oil, but that allows the chemical profile to be that much more robust and have that much more of a greater impact on your neurology. So a couple different ways that I recommend it. Again, when I work with patients that have TBI or concussions, things like that, memory issues, I love to use that. Depending on the quality of your oil, some you can use internally, put it in the mouth. I've had great success when people have had headaches, using frankincense, just a drop on the top of the mouth or under the tongue has really good effect. Putting it right behind the ears. Those are some great ways that I've seen frankincense have a benefit. Another blend that I've used, it's called Intune. I have this here. I've seen that help with just a lot of attention, being able to focus a lot more, and that's a blend that has frankincense as well as a couple other oils in it. So so that's where, again, just that calming, de-stressing, helping the brain function more clearly. That frankincense is phenomenal for that.
Hey, that's great stuff, Joe. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So the next question, I want to challenge you a little bit. I know most people probably at this point have heard of oils before, but what do you think's the main hurdle? Why do you think people haven't made the plunge to use oils more and utilize them as part of, at home or, dealing with whatever injury or ailment they may be having?
I think there's 2 reasons. One is not understanding, is there science behind essential oils? And so I think that's the first one is there research? Do we know that they're effective? How do they work? All this stuff. And let me just say, again, it took me 2 years to do the research, but there is tons of research. There's tons of science behind this. In fact, almost everything that we have from a medication standpoint in our society comes from at least a plant, and typically from the essential oil component of the plant. And so, and then it's a derivative, and they do a lot of other lab stuff to it. But the main chemical profile that they get originally comes from a plant source. And so, so that's where we're looking at. Yes, there is research and there is validity to it. And I mean, you look, there are a lot of very credible hospitals and institutions that are using essential oils. Johns Hopkins, Duke University, they're doing a lot of research. Huntsman Cancer Research Center is utilizing essential oils. So it's really getting out there, but a lot of people don't necessarily understand that there is validity and science behind it. And then 2, I think another bigger issue is not knowing when and how to use them properly. And again, with as powerful and the impact that they can have on your health, a lot of people will be like, well, I don't want to use it because if it's powerful, then I could hurt myself. And that's very true. And so one of the things, typically it's just been, well, this person shares with this person, and they kind of had some experience with this, but they have really no training in science and health. And so it's even, where do I get started? And then, do I know I'm doing the right thing for my body and for my health? And so that's where we've been working with healthcare providers and doctors to incorporate it into a clinical setting so that guidance can be provided by those who do understand health and do understand where they're coming from with the science side of things. So those are kind of the 2 biggest people struggling with just getting started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Makes a ton of sense again. And kind of backing off of what you said, I've told this to some people too, is as far as hospitals and other places starting to use the oils, I use the example of my wife when she was working as a CNA while she was in school for nursing. they made everyone walk around with little necklaces with lavender in it for a calming effect for them and the patients, and just keep everything within order on the wing of the hospital. So I thought that was kind of cool. Back in school when I first met you and we were going over a lot of these oils, that they were using them right there in the hospital. Western medicine meets Eastern medicine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, a lot of people don't even understand, or they don't even necessarily know, oh, that's actually an essential oil. Like they don't realize, oh, they're using that. It's being used. And so in certain areas, you just accept it. It's like, well, this is what you say to use, I'm going to use it. And so having that knowledge that, oh, that's actually what it is, that's where it's a lot of fun seeing where they're actually being used.
Yeah, and it'll be fun, I think, in the future seeing where they get used next and how much more we use them. But digress a little bit. So, what is the best resource you think you should tell people about that you utilize all the time, or that you think the general population should use to learn more about these oils?
I would say first and foremost, the best resource is your healthcare provider. And now the issue with that is a lot of healthcare providers don't understand essential oils, and so they won't necessarily be your best source or resource, if you will, but they do understand your health. And so whether you're getting the information or whatever from another source, passing it by your healthcare provider is important, so that because they do know and understand your health. And so utilizing them as a resource is incredibly important. Probably the best resource that I've seen for any health advice is either Pinterest or Google. They're great doctors for you. I always talk to my patients because they come in that way, and it's like, no, don't go to Google, don't go to Pinterest. It's not the best advice for you. You have no idea who posted that there. So don't go to Google and say that's a definitive resource for me. I would say a couple other resources other than your healthcare provider, especially one who has been trained in essential oils or functional medicine like you are. I would say the group that we've been working with and creating systems for essential oil usage in a clinical setting, Clinical Oils. So you can go to the Facebook page for that, and you can find different resources there. You can also find there are some good books that you can find. There are some different books I personally like, especially for patients to use. It's called the Essential Life Book, and that has some very readable, very usable information on both the science, but then also practical usage for that. And so those are some of the best resources I've seen as far as that.
Awesome. So thanks for sharing that. As we're wrapping up here with you, Dr. Joe, first two-part question. I want you to give people a parting piece of guidance as far as the oils go and just utilizing them, or starting to utilize them going forward. And then what's the best way if people want to reach out to you, getting a hold of you, maybe learn more about you and the oils?
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So best piece of advice for getting started. I would say connect with Dr. Ryan, right? Or somebody who knows what they're talking about in getting you started. So that would be, don't go alone with this. Don't try to do all your research on your own. Try to find somebody who knows what they're doing and utilize that as a resource. That's the best thing you can do, because then they can contextualize it to you individually, and not just, well, here's a broad piece of advice for everybody that can use essential oils. It should be very specific to how can you use essential oils, and then know what you're using them for, know what your purpose is. And that's honestly one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, is start with the end in mind. Well, why are you using it? Be intentional with your usage. So that's what I would say as far as getting started is reach out to somebody that you know and trust that can help guide you in that in the usage. As far as content, our clinic website, it's actually undergoing a lot of revision right now, but our clinic website is lifestreamclinics.com, and so lifestreamclinics.com. So that's one way. You can also email me, or you can just send Dr. Ryan a message, and he can connect you with me, or you can connect with him. Honestly, those would probably be the best way. But my email address Dr. Joe at lifestreamclinic.com as well if you have email questions for me.
Awesome. Well, once again, I thank you for coming on, Joe. I thank you for taking the time to, do this live interview and share this knowledge that you have on this topic. And I hope that anyone who is watching gains something from this and maybe they can start, living healthier today.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love geeking out about health, all things health, and especially oils and movement. So
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again.
yeah.
Well, thanks again, Joe, and thanks everyone for tuning in, and take care.
All right. See ya.